So people who hold on to what they have and are afraid to lose something react emotionally to the conditions in their life, are not willing to step into the unknown and take some risks in order to make a mistake, because that's what it takes to be.
I'm your host, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Let's begin.
So, without reviewing anything that I talked about in the previous class on abundance, I just want to come at it from another way. And I think that we live in really two states. We either live in an abundance mentality or we live in a scarcity mentality. And so much of our world is based on scarcity, and scarcity really means that there's not enough. And the root cause, or the driving emotion behind scarcity, has everything to do with fear. So what creates scarcity for a lot of people? Well, some people who want abundance may be saying, yes, I want to become wealthy, I want to have all my needs met, I want to live a happy, prosperous life, but they never make the effort to begin to actualize the dream that they're interested in creating. So, what are some of the characteristics of a person who lives in scarcity? Well, it's really simple. Some people have a significant fear of making a mistake because they think that the moment that they make a mistake, then they failed. And once they failed, they draw a conclusion that they aren't good enough, or they didn't do it right, or they go unconscious again, and they return back to living in the same consciousness. But if you study successful people, as I talked about in the last teleclass, many of those people have made many mistakes. But the key is that they learned from their mistakes, they modified their behaviors, made different choices, created some different experiences, and got the wisdom of how to do something better or differently. So if the brain learns by mistakes and surprises, and you're going at your dream for abundance from a certain mentality of lack, or a certain subconscious belief that money's hard to come by, or you're trying to create a new future but you're feeling the emotions of the past, then it makes sense then that for many people they experience a certain level of separation from their dreams. But when people begin to really see that by making different choices and beginning to gain wisdom from what they're doing, through the mistake process, through the learning process, when they lose, they don't lose the lesson. So scarcity then is based on a lot of people being afraid to make a mistake. Another part of scarcity has a lot to do with being afraid to lose something. So then people who have a scarcity mindset, their consciousness is all wrapped around the concept of possessing and holding on to things. And the very fact or state of mind that has to do with holding on to something is the belief that they're going to lose it. So their subconscious program is telling them, hold on to what you have because you're going to sooner or later lose it. Well, then if you believe that your thoughts and feelings have something to do with your destiny, sooner or later they're going to create that exact outcome. People who live in a scarcity mentality or consciousness are the people who have instantaneous emotional reactions to something outside of them. In other words, they're easily triggered because they react to the things that they don't have. So they make an attempt to get something, or they make an attempt to change their state of being, emotional reaction is based on lack or unworthiness or victimization, and then, of course, they get to be right about the way the world appears to them. So people who hold on to what they have and are afraid to lose something react emotionally to the conditions in their life, are not willing to step into the unknown and take some risks in order to make a mistake, because that's what it takes to be wealthy or abundant. Then they live as victims, and they will come up with 1,000 reasons of why they're thinking a certain way, why they're acting a certain way, why their life is a certain way, and they'll come up with excuses all on why they are the way they are, which means they're not taking responsibility for their life on every single level. Now, we'll talk about the qualities of abundance in a minute, but the last aspect of scarcity that I've seen with many people is that when they're living in scarcity, they are trying to get something from others. In other words, they know that they are in lack, they know that they need stuff, they know that the need is based on giving them relief from their own pain, from their own suffering, from their own limited belief. So what they start doing is they start looking outside of themselves and starting as opportunists to try to see if they can influence people to give them something, or they want to get something from somebody. And that, by very nature, isn't the definition of abundance. That's a person really becoming dependent on others. And so I'm telling you these things because I want people to become conscious that on some level, in order for you to step into the realm of abundance, you have to be able to look within yourself to see if any of these aspects that I'm talking about you can relate with. Now, abundant people that became abundant or are abundant are always willing to take risks, and they don't see their mistakes as a loss. They see the mistakes as an opportunity to learn, and even if they lose something, or something goes wrong, or somebody betrays them, or the whole project crumbles, they're very rarely discouraged by the outcome. They very naturally begin to start over again, but when they start over again, when they reconstruct their dream, they reconstruct it with the lesson of how to do it better the next time. So it's the rebuilding process. Yes, of course, they probably have some emotional reactions. They may feel frustrated. They may feel deflated. They may feel a little bit of pain and sadness. But they overcome their emotions very quickly. And by overcoming their emotional reactions in a short amount of time, they execute what's called emotional intelligence. And that ability to shorten their own emotional responses to conditions in their life keeps them out of their past. So when you're living by familiar emotions or you're reacting to things in your life, you can guarantee that you're going to move into your past, and those emotions are going to drive the same thoughts and same behaviors, which produce the same experiences that will reaffirm the same emotions. And now you are separate from your abundance. So they're willing to make mistakes. Many of them are willing to lose it all. They don't have a problem to take a risk or to challenge themselves and say, okay, I'm going to take responsibility and I'm going to make this particular choice. I'm going to put all my attention, all my energy behind it. I'm going to nurture this as far as I can, and I'm willing to lose a certain portion of what I possess in order for something greater to occur. And that kind of mindset puts them into a place of the unknown. all of a sudden it's more about your internal effort to begin to overcome those aspects of yourself that stand in the way between you and your abundance. And so I was telling my trainers, look, they have certain weaknesses. And when we have strengths and we have weaknesses, we tend to focus on the things we can do really well, and we keep doing them over and over again. And I think that's great. But in order for you to become whole, in order for you to embody becoming abundant or becoming a great trainer or becoming a leader or becoming a patient parent or becoming successful or becoming healthy, that process of becoming means you are going to have to overcome your weaknesses, and as you overcome those weaknesses, you become more of that person. So then I was challenging them, I was asking them certain questions, I was having them train in front of me, I was paying attention to the way they transitioned, and I realized that very simply, when they got to a point where they didn't know something, when they got to a point where they weren't competent, the moment they weren't competent, they lost their confidence. And so the moment I saw them lose their confidence, I knew that that was a weak point that they didn't know and understand. So what's the relevance of that in terms of what we're talking about in abundance? Because if they take care of that weakness and overcome it and become more well-rounded, then the adversity that they face in their life, they're prepared for, and it's less of a challenge. They're actually equipped to be able to meet the challenges that the environment is going to initiate them into. And the antithesis is also true, which means if you don't overcome that weakness, then when you walk out into your world and you're initiated and you're challenged, you're going to react in very predictable ways because you haven't overcome the very aspect that's standing in the way between you and reaching that particular outcome. So, making the effort to become aware of all these things and also looking to see what aspects of yourself that you need to overcome and look at those weak points and filling them in makes your life, when you step out into the world, way more adaptable. You can adapt to those situations a lot easier. So then, of course, you'll see the opportunity as an opportunity. You'll see the initiation as, oh, I know exactly what to do here because I prepared myself for it. The old self may have reacted this way, but in this situation, I'm going to persevere. In this situation, I'm going to let go. In this situation, I'm not going to react. So when people begin to prime themselves neurologically, when they begin to prime themselves emotionally, when they begin to prime their behaviors and become conscious of their unconscious states, they're more ready and worthy to become abundant.